Hello and welcome to the weekly Energy Shot podcast. This is your astrology update with Matt Taylor, and my name is Nicole Ercolani, and we have decided to produce this podcast series in order to give you a weekly astrological update from Matt and some energy shots, wisdom, coaching tools from us both. And then you have the information for your day-to-day life to prosper and to go in abundance and beauty around the planet. Hi, Matt. How are you this week?
I'm very well, actually. And I had a little bit of feedback from somebody this week about our podcast. It was
No way.
positive. She listens every week and really enjoys it. So it was good to hear. So
amazing.
Yeah, it was lovely. It's nice to get a boost along like that. And it's good to see we're on YouTube now, or we're very low numbers, but we will grow. No, we're always humble beginnings and big things to come. So we're excited about that as well. So it's good to be on YouTube and sort of being more interactive. Very well here. I feel like the energies are shifting for us. I feel like I'm coming with more positive things after a year of
finally.
I know. It's like when you come to the more positive energies, you could go, oh, I can see why Matt was sort of so negative and sort of always hard. Not negative, but very challenging. But you'll feel. As from this week, we are coming to the end of many cycles within the astrological chart. So the first one is the moon. I spoke about the moon last year, coming to the end of a 19-year cycle called the Saros cycle. So we're now very much into the new moon cycle of 19 years. It's very important, this moon cycle of 19 years, this Saros cycle, because that's an energetic what we call brace or bracket that we have in there. So we're starting off with new moon cycles on that bigger picture of the moon cycle. We're also finalizing with the Saturn-Uranus squares that we had that are very old versus new, innovative versus traditional, more conservative versus free, so all of that tensions that we've seen really play out in the United States, between, politics and the divisions that they have in their communities at the moment. And I mean, it's not only there, but it's a clear way we can see how new things are trying to push through, old things are trying to hold on. And somewhere in the middle, we'll find the way forward. We know that the United States is going through a big transformation because their Pluto is retrograding for the first time in their country's history. So they have, a big shift coming. So it'll be interesting to play out. But also the other thing that's shifting at the moment is the Mercury retrogrades. They've only been retrograding in air signs the past year. So they retrograded in Aquarius, they retrograded in Gemini, Libra, and now again in Aquarius. And this will finalize that only retrograding in air signs as well. And of course, we have had finish of the Venus retrograde. We only get a Venus retrograde every 18 months, and that goes for 6 weeks. So in the middle of December, that started and it finished as well. We have no planets retrograding from the 4th of February for quite some, key ones, anything to worry about for February, March, April, generally May. So you've got 4 months to really sail with the winds behind us, go forward. I mean, you can probably, with the Mercury retrograding at the moment, you can probably feel that everything feels lighter. And it's like, oh, we've finished something or we're out of something. Of course, in the 1%, in the physical reality, it looks like the virus. But these things are not, by accident. We looks like we're finishing the virus, but it really also, in the 99%, the energetic reality, we're really got things moving forward. So these are really what I recommend here is all the new things, all the changing things, all the things you want to freshen up, transform, move on, plant seeds, let go of now. Now is the time, because come the second half of the year, we will very much get the same feeling as we've had in the second half of the year for the past 3 years. It's going to be harder, more challenging, more heavy, more like I can't go forward. I'm just going over things and just, so move now. That's the real message. Move
do
now.
all the work in those 4 months.
Yes. Pack what you need to put all the things you want into the 4 months,
Yeah.
and then you've got better energies going with you before they start getting stale and stagnant and pushier and hardier and heavier and challenging again, because all planets except for Venus will retrograde in the second half of the year, including Mars. When Mars retrogrades, we have a little bit of problem because it's very attack energy. So we want to really move the Mars, which is when it's forward, it's with desire and passion and excitement. So, use it now while it's still forward. So that is sort of the big picture message here. It's quite exciting that we're really finishing off the old, moving with the new, all the things that we've been waiting for many years to be like, oh, I can't go forward. Oh, this is still happening. Oh, this is coming to an end. So I think that's very exciting for us.
I wanted to do a big social media thing on that. I think it's the most important time of the year, and I can feel it. Venus getting out of the retrograde for me as a Taurus is deeply, deeply visceral. I feel it with every ounce of my body.
Right.
My daily practice goes easier again. It's smooth like a baby's popo. It's very, very easy, very ongoing. But the last 6 weeks for me were very heavy, very dense, very I felt like walking through mud. And now I'm like, it's really I have the energy back, I have the vision back, I feel like I can move forward. Mercury retrograde is not something that really affects me a lot. I can tell it is going on, but it's not for me not so physical. But Venus retrograde was shitty heavy for me. I really didn't like it.
Well, when you have Mercury retrograde, and of course at the beginning of the Mercury retrograde, we also have Uranus retrograding at this finalizing.
Yeah.
And Mercury and Uranus are very connected. They're brother and sister. Uranus is is the bigger brother, and Mercury is the little brother, right? Because we have a system where Mercury, Venus, and Mars are the smaller brothers to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So they're the higher octave, yeah? And so at the beginning of the Mercury retrograde, it's very glitchy, because Mercury and Uranus are very disruptive energies. They're the shaker up and, get things not letting them get stale.
Yeah.
And they jump around a lot. So, if you think back 3 weeks, what was...
I can tell. I know exactly
what was off. Yeah. So now that Uranus is going forward, it's taken out a lot of that glitchiness or disruption, or things are just difficult and moving, and I can't stabilize anything into something where things are stabilizing out, and things are going forward. Of course, we have some quite big challenges we see on the horizon with, in the media anyway, but just I think in general for the most of us in the in the day-to-day lives, where we feel like we're getting a thrust forward, the wind in our sails. It's quite good. So if you think back to the beginning of the last year, beginning of 2021, think back to mid-December of 2021, and think back to January. And just think of what you started, because all of that should be finalizing in some stage, and you feel like you're going to a new stage with it.
What we started then? Live vision.
Yes,
and ours.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Yes.
So there were many starts for Nicole in terms of her project, and she was just telling me you've got a new stage actually with closing down and starting up. So that's very good. That's very good. That's where we want to be. We want to be a little bit with it, where it's positive, and doing that. So first of all, probably just to start with, we focus a little bit on the rising. Rising is staying in the same sign for about 3 or 4 weeks, and currently it's in Leo. And so we look at Leo rising, and what Leo is focusing on is leadership, sports, things that are creative, things that we want to go out and shine or heal. So there's 4 key things that, that Leo rising looks after. I mean, particularly with this Leo rising, we're looking at leadership. I mean, it's standing out in the world. Who's a weak leader? Who's a strong leader? All of that is kind of getting a little bit tense. So we know that leadership is a focus. We saw it with sport, with the situation in Australia, the tennis player who couldn't get in because he wasn't following the rules and all sorts of things. we interestingly, we see it with creativity this week with Spotify, as Spotify has gone a little bit, 12 billion loss in stock market this week, which also plays into the Uranus Taurus thing, where finances are shifting very quickly.
Yeah.
The conflict was between some, sort of older known singers and some new podcasters about there was tensions creating up, and Spotify decided to go with the podcasters, interestingly, because it started off as a music thing. So it's interesting here that the new voices of disruption, if you like, or the new voices of moving things are actually podcasters. Do you know what I mean? The leadership on innovation and change and different view and different perspective.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean, the podcaster in question was probably not someone I would listen to. I think he's very important. I think we need to have awareness of what goes on, but sometimes he's a little bit like making up the story a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's still important. Like if people are choosing that and choosing to listen to that, and he has the biggest contract with Spotify, it's something like 100 million. And, he raises most of this podcaster raises most of the advertising.
His name?
So his name is Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, I thought so, yeah.
Yes, very big in the States, and he's very much playing into, what are they doing, what's going on, which sometimes is a really interesting conversation, and brings in different voices from the other side, the anti-establishment side, right? Yeah. And they were in conflict with the singers from the 70s and 80s who used to be anti-establishment. So it's interesting now that we see a different kind of leader playing out. And one of the things I said in my forecast, the annual forecast, is voices of disruption. I talked about this, and you can see it now that the voices of disruption are people like you and me. I mean, astrologers used to be way in the woo-woo, clear the room.
Very woo-woo.
Yeah, you walk in the room and be, oh, you're an astrologer, and they leave you. Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's been this huge renaissance in astrology. It's very popular now. Everyone's an astrologer, just like everybody used to be a yoga teacher. Do you remember that? You talk to anyone, it's like, oh, I've just left HR and I'm becoming a yoga teacher.
Yeah. Or the coaches. Like, I went through a midlife crisis and now I'm a coach.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yes. Yes. But only the toughest will survive. We know that market will sort it out. And, people who have passion for it and excitement and want to be an astrologer in 10 years' time will be there. But we're just seeing this little hiccup of everybody loves astrology at the moment, and we'll have that for 5 years and it will drift away. And the people who are remaining will be the new true generation. I'm not against it, but we'll see in time who's still there. But, these things go in trends. But certainly the voices of disruption are changing. They're definitely changing. And people are listening to different things now and have more time. Well, not time, but they have more time to listen to something like this. So before, you remember, like, podcasting was, you have to do no more than 7 minutes. It's like, that's impossible, to have a decent conversation.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things out of this North Node Mercury that we went through for 18 months has been about conversation, different views, different perspectives, different ideas, and not just the traditional black and white ways we've been thinking about things. So I think podcasting is definitely something that's coming into its own, into a role. And I think it's now, I don't want to listen to ads, or I don't want to, get the mainstream media. And I want to listen to other perspectives, which is what we were talking about a lot last year, about different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I think that's now shifting, and we will see that. So the Leo rising is very much about these issues: leadership, creative expression, sports and creativity, artistry, creativity, starting and shining how you want to shine and heal in the world. If you look at where the sun is, which rules Leo, the sun is in Aquarius. So Aquarius is very much about the cosmic or the collective, or unique qualities, things that are different, things that shake things up. Right? So this is all playing into a new voice of disruption, I feel. It's drifting away from the Hollywood set. I think it's been drifting away from Hollywood set for quite some time, actually, for about 5 or 6 years. And it's drifting into various voices of disruption, various, people who want to shine, who want to heal. It's not just that churn out anymore. So I think, with the Hollywood set and a lot of things that have been coming out from that, and a lot of the Me Too stuff, and I don't know if it's got the same influence. It certainly has. And the influence is shifting more into people like you and me who have got something to say, and people who want to tune in and listen to something different that is outside the mainstream. The Aquarius energy will push it there. The voices of disruption will push it there. And we'll see, I think, big increases in people like you and me who've always been on the outside coming much more into the mainstream. And the mainstream traditional rollout always will be there, but I don't think it has the big influence it used to have.
Yeah, I think what's really changing, like back 10 years ago, when you were a psychic, or when you had like certain capabilities which were outside of the 3D reality that just was like, you know, the visible, there was a certain type of people that were like, oh yeah, can you read me a card, and can you, you know, there was a certain kind of greediness when it came to those abilities, but they were not pay, like they didn't want to pay that service. It was more like a little magic in my life, but that magic that had no value to it, like in a major part of it. There were people that were calling tarot readers and astrologers, but it was always like very dirty, and it had something very very gross.
Call me now, kind of.
Yes, it's really some kind of like
dark.
Like,
and
dark
the websites used to be black and purple.
Yes, very dark.
And they were like with crystal balls and stuff like this.
Yeah, and for me, this perception really deeply changed in the past 10 years. Remember, I mean, like 10 years ago, 2011, like it was not thinkable that we would have video content. Like it was the baby shoes of Instagram, but video was not possible because we didn't have the right amount of internet going on our mobile phones. Like it was the beginning of smartphones. It was like 10 years ago, it's like baby shoe.
Oh, I remember trying to do YouTubes and I gave up because you would record them and then the internet would fall out and you'd be like, just spoke for 10 minutes and now I have to start again. And so I didn't bother.
There was MySpace and YouTube, but even YouTube was in the baby shoes. Like YouTube was a toddler doing whatever he wanted. And but that whole notion, that whole conception of, that's a profession. Like you make money with that. And that's a normal profession. That was like nowhere to be found. And like, it's really, for me, it's very fascinating. I'm in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, like all this woo-woo stuff is like, there's a big part of people that really understand that this is a part of life. But the majority of the people are still like this is too spiritual. Like, this is too metaphysics. Like, that's strange. Like, why would you pull a card? Like, why would you but in the States, for example, or in Great Britain, in the English speaking countries,
it's shifting, and usually that's where the trends start. And they move things, especially with Britain. It's always been known as the innovator or the first, and then everybody else follows.
But also in countries like Russia, countries like the Middle East,
there's a lot of history in Russia and the
about
eastern
magic,
countries of Kabbalists and there was a big stream from Israel up to Russia. So I think that's another area of big growth as well.
Huge.
Of people changing. I mean, in the Germanic countries, it's always been seen as a little bit of a tougher push, and I think but that's good. There's more light there, and we will push on, and we will see change for sure.
Amazing.
Absolutely. So so that's.
Can I ask something about the new moon? Can you speak a bit about the new moon this week? Because I think people really I would love to know what's going on with this new moon. Where are we?
So Kabbalistically, or sort of more spiritually, or with the soul, we're with the month of a new moon of Pisces. But if you look at the technicality, that's right. If you look at the technicality, the Western astrologers would say it's the new moon of Aquarius. Now, new information from 5,000 years ago. So we have to drip this information through, but that's okay. Is that it's what we call a pregnant month, Kabbalistically. And you remember in the beginning of the podcast, I talked about these 19-year cycles with the moon,
the
right?
sour cycle.
So within 19 years, we have 7 pregnant years. And these pregnant years are when we have 2 new moons of Pisces. And so we will come back aligned with Western astrology, but Western astrology is not really understanding this concept of pregnant years. It's just going, oh, 1 month after another. But actually it doesn't work out, because there's 30 degrees in a sign and the moon only moves at 29. So every couple of years you have to make it up, right? It's like a leap year, right? Like in the Gregorian leap year. So if you look at it actually, like with the clear mathematical science, you have to make up a month. And we do this every year. Not every year. We do this every couple of years through Pisces, and you see it in the chart that it will come in the beginning of Pisces, and then the second one, the new moon, will be right at the end, like the 29 degree, and then we're back on track. So, I mean, that information, it's very deep, it's very esoteric, it's very hidden. So, you know, for the general astrologer out there, they're not going in there, right? They're not dealing with it in the same consciousness. So let's look at it we go back to the Babylonians, who were downloading the information about how this whole cosmos was working. And let's tap into their wisdom. Okay, so let's go into the new moon of Pisces, knowing that there'll be a second new moon of Pisces, Adar 1 and Adar 2, right? And people born in Adar 2 are usually a little bit more fiery. Like they're a little bit closer to an Aries, because that's the next sign. But people like, I was born in a year with 2 Pisces, but I was in the first one, so a very classic Pisces. So we look in the chart, in the natal chart, to see who's born, you know, if you were born in this secret kind of Pisces 2, right? So here, this is a year where we'll have 2 Pisces, which is really interesting because it's the sign of compassion, kindness, gentleness, sharing, and we'll have forward planets only during it. So we're going to see a big uplift in the tone, in the softness of the energy, the sharing nature, the unification, all of these very spiritual energies. Of course, every sign has its challenge. Here in the challenge, it's not falling into unhappiness, sadness, lack of appreciation, or lack of direction. So because we're going into that nebulous spiritual energies, we kind of can get lost in there, right? We feel like, oh, there's nothing here for me. The opposite can happen, right? We're going into the world where there's everything for me, ultimate abundance, happiness, joy, and fulfillment, which in the paradox of astrology can also mean that there's nothing here for me, right? So this is when people get depressed, right? Pisces is the sign where we're most open to depression and sadness and poor me, right? Also, because spirituality is about having a sense of direction and purpose and what you're here to achieve, you can also fall into there's nothing I'm meant to achieve, and what am I doing here? So it's very dramatic, very melancholic.
Very Pisces.
Very Pisces, wishy-washy.
Oh my God, there's nothing.
Oh my God. So, yes. So it's very that, no? So we want to be with, I know my spiritual purpose. I know there's a lot, I know there's everything here for me. I've got to, right, put it into this world. So really we're coming into I find if you are with appreciation and with action, that action and appreciation are really 2 big energies that we need to get through these 2 months of Pisces. What we also know is that Pisces is ruled by Jupiter in classic astrology, and in the ancient astrology, it's with more Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter and Neptune are both in Pisces right now. So we're going into this big Piscean thing where it's going to be super spiritual, super creative, super artistic. This is all of that high energy where we're tapping into music, into visual, downloading from higher realms, all of that sort of stuff. But it gets foggy in there. And it's like, oh, I'm so like lost, right? So action, like the 3D reality, which is action, is super important. What helps us is that Mars for 6 weeks, which is most of this, will be in Capricorn. Capricorn is the 3D reality and Mars is action, is putting it in. So we have an energy there supporting us with the Mars in Capricorn to say, I'm going to work, I'm going to be productive, I'm going to take these out into the public realm, I'm going to push forward, in a very like conscientious way. Capricorn is the sign of work. And karmic work and 3D work, right? So it's a big, like, I've got to earn, I've got to go out there, I've got to make my, make my status known, I've got to climb that ladder, I've got to get in the money, I've got to be on time. And we have Mars there, which is about ambition and desire. I like Mars in Capricorn. I think that the two energies go very well when you're trying to assert yourself into the public realm, like out into the status world, the job world, the finance world, the money world, all of that, which we're going to need this year, right? Already things are shaking, as I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. You can have a very big, successful company, and overnight, 12 billion you lose. This is Uranus in retrograde. Now, bring it down. We're not going to lose 12 billion. Right? But we can lose and gain in the same day. It's all like this with Uranus and Taurus. So we are really with a year that we need to really be consistent about manifesting our own resources this year. We need to manifest our own resources. Jupiter and Neptune, as I said, the big thing is creativity, artistry, and spirituality. But the big loss really is the senses of everything is overpromised. It's not actually what it is. It's not really what it is. We had Neptune go into Pisces in 2012, and since then, like, a lot of false gurus and a lot of false leaders and a lot of things that were promised to us aren't working out. This plays into Bitcoin a little bit. This is the realm that is hyped up the most at the moment, right? And what we will see is people falling in there, but it's overhyped. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's going to work out. We have Uranus and Taurus pushing it along a little bit, but I think it's overhyped. And I think there are many things going on that are overhyped since 2012. And we later find out, this was the real situation. Now, with Jupiter in there, that heightens it in there. We'll have Jupiter there for most of the year, not all of it, but most of it. So we're getting overpromised, and we could be overpromising ourselves or falling things into things where they're not actually true. So we really need to find what the actual value of something is. What's the clear value of something? I think is really important this week. What is it really like? Take time. And with Mercury retrograde, it's a trick as well. So take time to really see, what is this about? Is it really going to work? Is it really what it's saying on the tin? Is it really as it is? Is it everything in this situation clear to me? Do I need to ask more questions? Do I need to make more time? The Mercury retrograde finishing at the end of this week will mean that you will see it a little more clearer, right? But at the moment, everything is a little bit like cloudy, right? So the new moon will enhance that situation. You'll feel this gentleness, this softness, this beautiful Piscean kind of energy with a lot of Capricorn energies. We will have Mercury in energy in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, Venus in Capricorn, keeping everything on the earth, yes? But I still have a lot of cloudiness. So it's really important to be not falling into victim status, that all these emotions that are coming up don't affect me too much, right? Don't impact me. Don't make a movie out of them. Don't make a drama out of them, right? We've had The Crown. We're on and on. Yes, we don't need another one. We don't need episodes. So it's important to be stable inside, clear. Where am I going? What's the real situation? Keep the feet on the ground. And then we'll have a better spiritual year. We need to take all that higher energy and bring it down into the ground and make something productive and useful of it. That's what the energy wants at the moment.
Amazing. What I feel about this cloudiness of this Uranus energy, I feel that
Neptune. Sorry.
Neptune. I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Of this Neptune energy is like, it feels like there is, to me, in a spiritual explanation, if I would have to give one, I would speak about timelines. Timelines are the reason why people can pull tarot cards, and they were used to able back in the days to give very clear predictions on where your life is going, because the planet Earth was very dense and people's body were very dense, so they didn't shift timeline very fast. But now that people are more and more into the transformation of what they are experiencing as their reality, so for example, you're constantly having disruptive relationships. And then so you're doing the shadow work, you're doing the work for that. So the possibility of you shifting timelines in this specific area, but in your whole reality, is very high. So what this Neptune nebulosity does is like it's opening a lot of timelines. And the possibility to tap into one or the other timeline. For example, there is one timeline where you are doing your job, you have your own company, you have a relationship, family, and everything plays out very beautifully. But then on the other hand, there is a timeline in the same moment. There is a timeline open where you lose your company, you're going back to 8 to 5 in an office, you're single all your life. Like, the timelines, like that's what it does for me. It's really opening up the time space reality. So that's why it feels so nebulous. Like everything is possible. But
yes, that's right. But then you don't choose anything. You sort of get stuck
the
where
most
you are.
important
It's
thing,
exactly it.
the most important thing is to understand that you are choosing your timeline with what you choose to vibrate in your physical body. Like the vibration you put in your physical body. And of course people are then like, oh yeah, I just have to do goal setting. And no, that's not enough. Like choosing a timeline would mean like you are like really going into what do you want to experience in the next couple of years, what you want to experience of your life, and then you start to feel that timeline. You tap into that timeline and then you stick with that one. And you're working it into your physical body, and you work, like do meditations, do yoga. That's why this yoga is so important for me. That's why I'm preaching since years, like do yoga, do more yoga, because this is the way, the ancient techniques, the 5,000-6,000 years old techniques to ground in the timeline energy that you're choosing, and then move accordingly, and to ground in those energies into the physical body, into the chakras, into the glandular system, into your pranic body, and then you're vibrating that timeline, and then you're going. That's how it's done.
And we have this Leo rising, which is about sports or activity, and the sun, which is in Aquarius. So which Aquarius is about moving beyond structures. So we can really do some activity or create, or creative movement or a sport that moves us, as you're saying, beyond the boundaries, beyond the structures of the cosmos. So I think it's a great tool to really use to keep in your body and keep with the action and keep with the movement. That is so important. We've got like supporting energies that really help us with this month of the pitfalls of these 2 months of Pisces falling in. And I think it's actions, sport, movement, direction, knowing where you're going, tapping into that Mars energy in Capricorn, the Sun energy in Aquarius, which are really like be able to push through the structures and the boundaries that could exist and choose a new reality, I think, or your own reality that you feel you want to create. Super important. So yeah, go on.
Sorry. What can really help with that choosing the timeline as well is, for example, you're meditating on a certain timeline, on a certain reality that you want to experience. A timeline, like when the spiritual people speak about choosing timelines, what they mean with that is like, choose what you want to experience on a visceral level. What do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? Like that's the whole manifestation thing that they're always talking about. And then for the meditation, take a crystal or a mala in your hand and vibrate this, what you want to feel, into that piece and wear it. So your physical body is constantly reminded of this vibration and is able to weave. Thank you, Dad. Weave it into the physical system, into the magnetic field, so you can start to attract the things you want to see. And I feel to speak about the 2012 thing that you were talking about as well.
Oh yes.
Interestingly enough, I work a lot with a Mayan timekeeper. His name is Jose Munoz, and the Mayas, for them, the calendar, that they thought that the calendar ended in 2012, which is not true. It's a wrong calculation. That's what he says, at least, and he's a Mayan timekeeper. So let's keep that one. But 2012 was a window opening, which is going until 2036. And according to the Mayas, we're moving through the center of the Milky Way at the moment with our whole system. And then we're from 2026 to 2036, we're moving through a belt where there are a lot of comets flowing around in that belt. And that's the disruption that we already start to feel because we're getting closer there. And interesting enough, he said that now the NASA's and all the, you know, the people that are going into the space, they're already preparing the knowledge and the technique and the technology to when we're moving through that belt with the cosmic comets, that we are ready to shoot them down.
Yes.
Very interesting, no? And
yes, I love it.
But it's very woo.
This is the age of Aquarius.
It's the age of Aquarius. I love it.
Isn't it? Because it's just taking us out into the cosmos more and more. That you know, now the end, and it plays into this recent movie with Leo DiCaprio, you know, where he says, though I haven't seen it yet, but I got the basic story that there's a comet coming, and then all the institutions play out in their own way, you know. They all play the funny role, and you know, then I want to see it, but it's very that.
It's an amazing
it's very
movie.
that. And I think our mind, you know, is just like chewing gum at the moment. Nothing surprises anymore because we just need to stretch out our mind into all sorts of like ways to be able to deal with some of the things that, you know, we've never dealt with. We've also had the Jupiter-Saturn shift into Aquarius, so we've got 200 years of air cycle, so that's the brain expanding out and all of that. And Jupiter and Saturn actually rule timelines. And so now we're moving into air-based timelines, which air is an endless energy, isn't it? It's like so that's right. It's all the brain stuff, all the mind stuff is now being, and the way we communicate and speak has all been expanded. So like bold prediction, but I think we will not have social media within this life, and I think we'll have telepathy. We'll have communication that is. Well, the AI, the VR, the telepathic reality will come in where there's no time, space, or motion. Everything is happening at once. So this is very air energy and very cosmic energies that we're seeing.
I mean, Google runs already tests with implants in the brain, so people can directly link. I love you. Everybody's like, no, I don't want to do that. And people are like, okay, bring it on.
Yeah, I'll have 10.
And bring it on. What they will do is they will implant, they have chips in the brain, so you can link directly to AI, to the metaverse, to you know, whatever.
You could see me on every corner you go. I'm so artificially
like,
intelligent.
Hi, honey.
I've got to go because I've got a painter coming in.
I love it. Beautiful podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great week.
See you, everybody. Bye.